Right now, without even thinking about it, you are doing something shockingly strong. Furthermore, it is not meditation, it is not journaling, and most certainly, it is not manifesting in the manner TikHub told you. Not your effort, not your work ethic, simply your focus. Since the truth is your architect of your reality, there is no metaphor here. Literally, what you give more emphasis on grows. What you overlook disappears. And the catch is this as well. Most people are concentrated on exactly what they do not want, and they do it with discipline. They pay close attention to who wrongs them. They concentrate on the absent. They center on their sense of being stuck. Then they are shocked when life continues to present them more of it. Everyone keeps missing a silent detail though, a psychological blind spot that has been gently guiding your whole life. It's not only about thinking positively. That's too limited. It's about realizing your mind filters reality. And why, without your even realizing it, that filter is most likely undermining your development. This video might just gently boost your ego in the best possible manner. If you have ever felt as though you are doing all the right things, yet your life seems to be revolving around the same issues. Stay with this, since in a few minutes you will begin to see how the smallest changes in focus can bend your reality into something you really want to live in. The world isn't as it is right now. You are seeing the world as you are. More especially, considering whatever your main concentration is on. It's like walking around permanently zoomed in on whatever you're emotionally hooked to, a camera fixed on your forehead. And the wild side as well? Generally, most people never zoom out. Let me dissect this. Your brain lacks some all-seeing oracle quality. This is a limited battery pattern-seeking missile. Coming at you every second, you have billions of bits of information. Sounds, colors, textures, smells, micro-expressions, inner thoughts, emails from one person who still double-spaced following a period. Your brain filters mercilessly, unable to handle all that, and what is kept by it. The things you are concentrating on, the stuff that fits your inner reality, the material that supports your already held beliefs. So suppose your brain will highlight what you secretly believe to be the unfairness of life. Every lost chance, every lucky person, every little personal inconvenience that seems significant, and your brain will go, "See, told you." Conversely, if your mind is on development, even the smallest indicators of it, you begin to notice events you would have missed. A fresh chance buried in a challenge. The kindliness of a stranger you would have overlooked. No, you did not wreck everything today. You handled that one thing rather like a damn pro. This is not only fluff-positive thinking. Neuroscience here is what I mean. We name this the reticular activating system. A tiny portion of your brainstem functioning as a reality filter, and it responds to your concentration as though it were a playlist. Keep running the same emotional song. I follow behind. I don't measure up. I'm caught. And your brain will begin to show you matching music video. But most people never hear the amusing twist here. You can break through this system, not by acting as though negative events do not exist, but by focusing on other aspects. You start telling your brain, "Hey, I'm more fascinated in ideas than in drama. Perfect is not as important to me as development. I am more concerned in becoming than in blaming." Your mental camera suddenly picks different angles. You are not altering the nature of reality. At last you are seeing the whole thing, and your external world starts to move with you when that lens changes. Why then do we continue to focus on what drags us down? Plain. One finds it addictive, not in the joyful manner that chocolate or binging your comfort YouTuber at 3 a.m. suggests, but in the quiet, self-sabotaging way that feels like control. Emphasizing what's wrong gives your brain something to grab. And let me say straightforwardly, often easier than facing uncertainty is feeling in control of something, even if it is your own suffering. Since growth is the emphasis here, you must so confront your blind spots. This implies realizing that the story you have been clinging to might not be the whole one. Maybe, just maybe. The mind despises that as well. It would much prefer feed you emotional leftovers than prepare something fresh. It would much prefer return to known suffering than investigate strange peace. Since at least pain is not surprising. For this reason, so many people will say things like, "I just want peace." Still live rent-free in their minds though. Scroll into arguments, chase unavailable people, or revisit old conversations that happened 2 years ago on a wet Tuesday. It has nothing to do with their brokenness. The mind does not by default serve peace. It speaks familiarity, and what you pay constant attention to gets familiar, even if it's gradually sapping you, even if it costs you chances, relationships, happiness. It's like throwing weeds in your own yard and then wondering why you can't grow anything worth keeping. Your focus needs to be trained like a muscle, because the world will take over it for you absent you. They all fight for your mental screen time, the algorithm, the news cycle, the one person whose validation you are still subtly waiting for. And if you start choosing what gets your energy, you'll spend your whole life feeling tired by what you didn't choose, but kept consuming nonetheless. When people ask then, why does nothing ever change? Usually the response is quiet, subdued, uncomfortable, since you never altered the focus of your attention. You never stopped to ask, is this still worth my concentration now? Alternatively, has it only grown second nature? Nobody really teaches you this growing up. You are free to shift your emphasis without getting approval. Not sorry, without waiting for things to get so bad you find yourself compelled. Most people, though, only start to pay attention once they have reached some emotional rock bottom. They wait till their way of life is burnout, till daily life consists in anxiety only, until their carrying weight causes them to collapse at last. Then, and only then, they begin to wonder, perhaps I shouldn't be concentrating on everything at once. But suppose you skip that long wait. Starting now, could you train your diet, your standards, or your body, or your focus the way you would wish? Not with a dramatic action, but with your choice of what you avoid. That one idea you always go back to when things seem hazy. Eat nothing. Every time someone let down you, that emotional spiral you ride. Stave it. You're behind, you're not enough, you'll never get it right, that internal voice. Cut it off. And start feeding what feels light instead, even if at first it seems strange. Even with a just 1% change. Even if it does not instantly solve anything. That is not fluff, since that small change in the focus of your attention is not trivial. For your mind, that represents compound interest. You pay attention to what strengthens you, even in little doses. You begin drawing in objects that fit that concentration. Not magically, but rather mechanically. You start to notice better choices. You leave the thing that saps you faster. You hear the same criticism differently, and answer clearly rather than defensively. One day you wake up and discover you no longer find the same stuff haunting you. Not because the world became simpler, rather your mind stopped fixated on what was wrong all the time. The needle moves when you at last turn your attention toward what you really want to feel, what you want to create, what you want to become. Not because you tried harder, but rather because you stopped watering what you secretly despised. Here is where it gets intimate, since this goes beyond only attitude, about your identity. This is unaware of it, the version of you you constantly reinforce every single day. Focus shapes who you think you are as much as it shapes your reality. Spending every day preoccupied with your mistakes, flaws, shortcomings will cause you to come to see that as all you are. And not because it's true, but rather because all you're focusing on. The mind follows orders, overly faithful. If you keep asking for the same version of yourself with your concentration, it will keep presenting you with that. But that tired, worried, always doubting version of you could simply be a mirror of your most practiced ideas, not your truth. And once that strikes you, it's a little awkward. Because you understand you have been arguing for your limitations using the kind of fervent passion most people reserve for their dreams. You have been building your house in your suffering and calling it personality. You have been so focused on surviving that you overlooked asking, am I even living the life I am aware of? The wild part is this, though. You do not have to change your whole perspective overnight. There is no 7-step plan or vision board needed here. You simply have to break the trend. You say, not today, when your mind begins to return to the known spiral. I'm deciding today to pay more attention to the version of me headed forward. Not even if they are crawling, even in confusion, even if they have failed 18 times thus far. At least that version isn't fixated on remaining in the same place merely because it's familiar. Yes, initially it will feel unnatural. You'll come across as faking it. But that is not dishonesty. That rewires me. It's presenting your brain with a fresh target to fix on. Improved filtering, a more powerful lens. Thinking about power does not make one powerful. Changing the subjects of your attention helps you to develop power. Not drama though, not fear, not fantasy conflicts in the shower, but reality, stillness, direction. The mind will float about constantly. It does exactly that. But your teaching of it to wander somewhere useful depends on your own concentration. Most people are unaware of the tremendous energy they are losing. Not because life is too weighty, but rather because their attention is too dispersed. It's like trying to read 5 books at once while answering texts, watching the news, rereading past conflicts in your head, and still wondering why you feel overwhelmed before 10 in the morning. And now here is the twist. You could not even be aware of it, because continuous stimulation can feel like productivity. Reading self-help, examining behavior, running through what you should have said. It sounds like movement. But that is not the case. It is noise dressed in momentum. And all that noise is robbing you of your real development. Because if your attention is in 12 places at once, your life cannot really move in any one direction, particularly in cases when most of those locations ultimately have little bearing. You are not in need of more drive. You need less distractions. You are not obliged to try harder. You have to stop feeding the emotional tabs running in the background of your mind like a laptop overheated. Focus lacks appeal. It is not flashy or loud. It is still, nearly dull. Still, the one superpower you have that is least appreciated, because your actions get clear when your attention becomes pure. Your life simplifies when your actions become clear, and you at last get your energy back when your life simplifies. Things outside of your control stop wearing you emotionally tired. You stop looking for people who stopped looking for you. You stop showing up in places that drain you simply because your past self would have. The actual change is like that. Not changing into someone else, but at last paying attention to the version of you buried under all the noise. It starts with attention as well. Not intent, not objectives. Just pay attention. Actually, with your ideas every day, what are you feeding? And is it only keeping you occupied or helping you? Choosing what you neglect to pay attention to has something quite underappreciative about it. Not always you have to heal it. Not always you have to find the answer. You might occasionally just stop feeding it. Not everything has closure worth considering. Not every idea warrants thorough investigation. Not every feeling should be turned into a 10 slides Instagram post. Some things lose their power the instant you stop giving them significance. That is the essence of maturity, not responding to everything pulling at your vitality. Just looking at it, let it pass. Decide not to let it define your whole demeanor for today. The ironic part comes here as well. You at last have time to see what's working when you stop obsessing over what's draining you. The objects meant to be invisible. Your progress, your tolerance, your capacity to say no. They begin to gleam somewhat more brilliantly. Not because they changed, but rather because you created actual viewing space for them. Most people never find themselves at that place. They remain caught in a cycle, continuously fixing issues that have little bearing on need. All they require is release. They overanalyze silence, pursue validation, create stories out of shadows, and identify as self-aware. Real self-awareness, meanwhile, is not about obsessing over your own suffering. It's about realizing your identity develops where your attention points. Therefore, be not surprised if healing seems unattainable, if you keep emphasizing who you were when you were hurt. You're not paying attention to the version of you that survived. And already here is that version. You have not to create them. You just have to start looking toward them. There is not complexity in the change. It's just awkward. It means you start to be the quiet architect of your work instead of the primary character in your own drama. That kind of focus is great. It comes with freedom, but not with applause. Here then is your quiet reminder. One does not have to know everything. You merely have to decide what energizes you and what doesn't, for that is the actual power. Not trying to control every outcome, not responding to everything, but rather becoming quite deliberate about what is let to remain in your mental space. Most people let events that won't even matter next week to divert their attention. After spending hours mentally hunting circumstances they will never be able to find closure from, they will wonder why peace seems so far away. Yet you are not here to engage in that game anymore. You're here to give your energy on intent, not out of habit. You're here to make your focus valuable. Additionally, it won't be flawless. You will slide. You will question yourself too much. Periodically, you will find yourself pulled back. But each time you turn your attention back to what really strengthens you, you are rewiring something more fundamental than mere drive. You are taking back your mind, softly, powerful, each day. Now, if you made it far along, you are different. When the algorithm fails to toss dopamine at them every 6 seconds, most people tap out. But you persisted. Comment focused. In the comments to let me know you belong among the focused few. Moreover, you already know what to do if this kind of material seems like a mental reset button. Like sub, and I'll see you in the following one. Stay sharp and guard your peace as though it were gold, since it is.